Hi, it's Tony Grebmeier. Thanks so much for joining us. Excited for you to be a part of Flip the Switch as we head into a brand new year. That's right, 2021. And recently had a nice conversation with several individuals and a bunch of participants. And here is the best of Vinnie Fisher. What is something you noticed about yourself in 2020?
You know, I learned a couple things. One thing I learned is my responsibilities of leadership. I learned to start embracing people in their story, and in order to do that, I had to really learn a category of kindness and some more compassion in my words in leadership. A lot of differences, a lot of division, a lot of people having different perspectives, and that was true inside my organization as well. And so I'm thankful to have had time to recognize that I needed to be more watchful of the words that I use in leading others. And I'm so thankful that I discovered some more kindness in that. I know that might sound strange to some of you, but because I was being more purposeful with my words and seeking, so my faith is very important to me, and some of you may see that, and it's not for you, it's for me. So please embrace that. I embrace it, not asking you to embrace that. But something that's real important to me is that a piece of scripture says, use encouraging words, only those that are beneficial, so it may be encouraging to those that are listening. And that kept ringing in my ears over and over during this time. And that, so even though I felt a certain way, that I should lay down my rights and help others. And gosh darn it, I ate my own dog food and did that in our world, in our family, in our work. And we've, I can give you story after story, but that's the big thing. And then the other thing is very personal, and it's, I get energy off people. And so I massively miss being with some of you who I know. And I would jump a plane or go to a place, and I would disguise it under getting business, but I didn't really care looking at it. I just wanted to be around people that actually added energy to me. And so I was willing to rob from my family to go away and be with other like-minded entrepreneurs who abundantly think, help me think bigger. Well, in all of that process, I realized I'm thankful to have realized some mental toughness in isolation. And I had to work at that. And isolation's a little harder for a personality of mine. I don't get energy being alone. I get it being with people. And so I've had to work really hard at protecting and taking captive my thoughts during these times of being alone. And so I'm thankful to be doing the work on that. I'm not saying to you it's done. I'm saying that I'm doing it.
Vinnie Fisher, what do you do on a daily basis that will help you moving forward in 2021?
I love some of the things I've heard about this idea of taking inventory. Like, I think it is super duper hard to be at the top of the pile leading things. It's a lonely place. It's the funnel turned upside down. Only so many people make it to the shopping cart, right? And so when you're at the top of the pile leading all the things you're expected to lead, there's two downward pressures that are constant. You're expected to always be available, and you're expected to always be right. And those two pressures don't go away. It's how we deal with them. Is the real more important part of this. So I love that taking inventory. I wrote a note there while Aaron was talking about it's a perspective on progress. I just love that. So thanks, bud. I really appreciate seeing your big fat mug there and saying hello. And so that's good. I really do appreciate that perspective. I love how Amber drags that into her life. So, for me, I'd come to the realization that the person that gets the most benefit of the doubt in my life is me. I kind of give myself some excuses when I take a play off, or I don't work out, or I sleep in, or I miss something. Through this whole process, though, I also realized the one I'm the hardest on is me. And one of the things as entrepreneurs, I want to encourage you that I do every day is I pay attention to the language of what I'm saying to myself and about myself. And I noticed over time that I was using extremely hurtful language about myself. And in that process, I was making disastrous agreements that I would of these wounds that I would have carried and got during my lifetime, whether under my own volition or not. They became a sum total of part of my journey. Well, I would allow those wounds, these undiscovered, hidden, dark things that were trapped away in compartments in my heart. They were getting more authority in decisions I was making than I could realize. And, out of the mouth flows the heart. And so I started listening to my own language. And quickly I realized I was awful to myself, but then I was awful about myself. I was saying things that just weren't true. They weren't noble. They weren't praiseworthy. They weren't honorable. And so I took that to, in my case, my Lord. And I asked for what was that? And quickly started revealing to me agreements I was making, awful agreements that I wasn't worthy of certain things. I couldn't grow stuff. And I want to encourage each of you that one of the first steps to coming on the other side of this side of taking inventory, spend the night understanding how to measure fruit, looking backwards at progress and being grateful. I think you have to, in this process, all of that is awesome. You need to start paying attention to the agreements you're making with yourself. And you may be making, in my case, agreements with some battle that you're spiritually having that you don't even know you're making, that is literally holding you in this almost what you might consider jail sense bondage of doing something. And this first step for me started with calling out that stuff so that I could actually break those agreements. So if you see yourself doing them, I'll give you a great one. I heard a couple of them on here. I think Nick and Amber had a very similar one about, the inability to receive. You ever get a compliment from somebody and they say, "Oh, Vinnie, nice sweater." And you say, "Oh, that old thing." You're rejecting a compliment. It actually speaks to something else about your inability to receive it. And quickly, if you start paying attention to these language patterns, you'll find out it will boil down to your inability to receive love. And for me, my capacity to give love was limited by my ability to receive it. And so I was so thankful that when my dad died, I was able to be dragged up a mountain and broken about these issues. And I'll tell you, the greatest gift, success, businesses, all these fun things that get to keep score of while we're having fun. All of that is a blast. But quite honestly, I can sit here and cry about this, but I'm so thankful that I found a category in my heart to be aware of these dents and wounds and quickly call out these things that are untrue so that I could stand pure and blameless, so that I can be in my proper identity, so that as a child of God, I can do all these things to help others. I love me some Ron Lynch like you have no idea. The fact that he's sitting here doing the things he's doing, buddy, you're awesome. And guys, when he said that about me calling out some of the stuff he was talking about, it was just me being aware and present, actually even reflecting some of my own crap. If I'm going to give you one thing, is I encourage you, have a multitude of counselors. I loved Aaron's advice. Be surrounded by a multitude of counselors and be careful about receiving counsel from someone who hasn't walked down a path. I believe coaches can coach, but in certain situations, playing is more important than coaching. Not in all situations, because not all coaches of the Super Bowl ever played football. But so that analogy can break down. But sometimes walking down a path is important, especially one that's been worn. With that in mind, the most loving thing as I'm doing now in my life is paying attention to the language about myself and finding ways to feed my soul. The things that I do. The favorite thing for me on this so far has been this idea. I butchered it, Ron, but you said something like value creation is not about extraction, it's about contribution. What can I do What's the value proposition in my business, in my leadership, in my marriage, in my family? What am I doing to contribute? Because you'll get back what you want and more if you lead with contribution first. But in order to do that, you got to get right with this idea of being able to receive. Because if you can't get love to you, that's the ability of what you're going to give back to others. It's going to be capped by that.
Thanks for joining us today at Flip the Switch. To learn more, visit fliptheswitch.com, download the worksheet, and you can participate yourself. Until next time, go make today the absolute best day of your life.